This is IsAware, powered by Intersoft Associates. IsAware is your connection to exploring the systems and software that power businesses like yours with expert insight, experience, and advice.
Welcome back to IsAware. I am Chris Bintliff, and I'm joined by Abe Unger and Hai Goldstoff from Intersoft Associates. And guys, some big headlines this week from Microsoft and some database mismanagement maybe in one of their more DIY solutions, Power Apps, and how it has created, I guess, some opportunity for the ne'er-do-wells to dig in and do some things. And it kind of opened up this interesting discussion about the advantages of custom software versus the DIY or the off-the-shelf or even the sort of homebrew with these sorts of tools. And I'm really curious about your perspective on some of these things. Kind of three specific questions I have are really, how does custom software help me achieve more specificity in my organization? How does it help me to continue to grow or maintain something that I've been building? And how does custom software help me work more specifically with maybe other tools that I need to use or other software? So Hai, I don't know, let's pick apart this first one. Talk to me a little bit about custom software meeting my specific needs and maybe allowing me to not compromise or find the cheapest, fastest, easiest way out, but instead the best way.
It just allows a company to create software that works within their culture, works the way they work, without changing their processes. Oftentimes, when you will take some off-the-shelf software, there's a lot of work done in customization. And I'm not, certainly I'm not bashing off-the-shelf software. There are many systems that are really good, but they all require a good deal of customization, a good deal of setup, and things get parameterized, and that's what kind of makes the software, really general. And there's a whole bunch of that kind of customization in terms of parameters and what relates to what, and so that's what kind of makes it general. But that's just it; it's general. That customization, that setup, that configuration, the word I was looking for, can be a long, expensive process. And many organizations will wind up having to compromise what they really need versus what they can really do. The poster child for a complete failure is one of our clients, one of our larger clients, was looking at putting in, one of these, I'm not going to mention the name of the software, but one of these off-the-shelf, enterprise, real big enterprise level software packages. The cost of the software was was not outrageous in the grand scheme of things, but the configuration was. It's done by high-end consulting firms, the consulting arm of the Big Four, other major. Anyway, without boring everybody who's watching, and they had units all over the world. And after they spent close to $100 million, they stopped at one unit and they said, "We're done."
Wow!
Because each of the units, while they're all in the same business, operate differently. They run their businesses differently. What's going on in South America is going to be different than what's going on in China and the US and Europe. They're all different. And so all of this customization, trying to get, your arms around, a big sequoia or a big oak tree, you just can't. And you wind up making a whole bunch of compromises that at the end of the day, it didn't look like what you expected it to look like. So that's something that you need to look out for. So anyway, having said that, if you're going to get your own software written either by someone internally or someone externally, it's going to match your specifications precisely. And also a good software developer or a good software consultant will push back. When things don't make sense, they're not going to take your order. They'll push back and say, that makes absolutely no sense. You guys, you in Africa and, you in Europe, you're in the same business. What is so different about what you do? Let's first decide on commonality with whatever differences there might be, whatever spokes there might be. But let's decide on commonality and let's take the best practices of both organizations and apply that. Well, the consultants don't necessarily do that. They try and please everybody. And there goes $100 million for one out of, 25 business units.
It's a really interesting point. And I wonder sometimes, especially for smaller or mid-market companies, Abe, if, and thinking about the Power App situation, and there are a lot of great tools out there that let you kind of create your own custom sort of solution using the infrastructure that somebody else has already come up with. Can you help me understand the difference between custom software development and customizing based on the tools somebody else has made available? Isn't that custom software development? Can't I do the same things?
So to some extent, it is custom software because you're tweaking it to do what it is that you need. And it's an environment that allows you to do that, and it's built that way. But like any environment, if you don't know how to use it, it could be dangerous. So you really have to understand the complexities that are involved. Does that tool make sense? And even if it does make sense, are you using the right resource to build whatever it is that you need built? Using an internal guy who says, oh, I think I've tinkered with that before, let me try it. He may not understand those details, or the maybe it's a security implementation, or maybe it's something else where the configuration of that can be detrimental if you don't do it right. As we've seen, there was a configuration issue, and passwords were stolen, data was pulled. It's the kind of thing where you really, really have to understand the tool. It may in fact be the right tool, and it may give you everything that you need, but you still need someone who's going to help you with making sure that it's done correctly and make sure that it's secure. And you may go through a software developer who will do some of that. You'll do some kind of a cybersecurity audit that'll make sure that everything is correct. But there are other parts or practices that go into that rather than just writing it. Custom software from scratch that doesn't use any of these tools may be warranted or may not. But again, that goes into what does the business do? What are the needs? What are the requirements? What has to be done? What is the timeline for getting something done? Depending on that timeline and what the requirements are, some tools may be used that can get the job done quicker. Maybe there'll be an interim solution, or a phased approach. But again, that goes into the conversation with us or somebody else. What is the software? What does it need to do? And then make sure that you have the right resource who's going to do that for you.
Yeah, but also as an analogy, people will come in who are technically proficient, or think they are, and come in and use it. And it depends. Again, it all depends on what you're using. But if you're running an organization, or at least a part of an organization, and it's an important part of the organization, it's kind of like, and there's so many parts, like Abe was mentioning, but there's so many best practices that people miss. If it's transactional, keeping the proper history of transactions, keeping history of data changes, all sorts of history. What data do we need? The more, we're adept, custom software companies or software companies are adept at identifying what data needs to be maintained. The people that do this, as a generalization, I mean, there's some that I'm sure, do it really, really well, are only have tunnel vision, and, this is what I want to do. They're not looking at all the collateral areas. So, it can get you there, it can do it, but it's also, the difference between building and flying a single engine Cessna and building and flying, a 767. There's so much more in the 767 that supports the operation. The Cessna will get you there, but, it's great for one person, but not for, 350 sitting behind you. So, and that's a little bit, custom software may cost as much as a 767, but not normally.
That's, I think, a really interesting point, Hai, and Do you agree that then, if continuing your analogy, if you both built the 767 and you know all the ins and outs of it, then as the travel needs change, or as new destinations on the map come up, or even as technologies change and adapt, you are better positioned to help an organization make some changes, make some innovations on that. So this custom software is better positioned to help me grow if I have the right consultant around me who can continue to challenge me, ask me new questions based on new business realities, new market dynamics, new technologies. There's an advantage to custom software around my growth than just the thing I was able to do that solved the problem of yesterday. Is that accurate?
But it's not just custom software. It's having the breadth of experience in working with all sorts of companies and all sorts of industries, where you can apply what may have happened in a different industry to this one, because that's a common situation. So you've got this breadth of experience, again, not the tunnel vision that you have being in one organization. It's what I tell, customers or clients, or in general, anybody I know, if they have an internal individual in the managing their cybersecurity, managing their internal systems, that person is only seeing a little bit of that whole industry. The professionals who do that, see what goes on in dozens and dozens and dozens of clients, and have a breadth of information and knowledge at their fingertips, kind of like Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours, where they know this, and this person doesn't have the ability to go out and learn and go to seminars, because he's just leveraging that one company. Over here you send someone out, he's got the breadth of 100 clients that he can apply that knowledge to. So he's more likely to get the breadth of experience, where the other guy, may just stick with this one product that may no longer be good.
Abe, that's a really great point about the value of the consultant and the consultancy. Do you find that having that more myopic approach, if I'm internal, or even if I was, hired to look at this one thing and I don't have that breadth of experience, am I missing out on opportunities to understand how workflows can be improved with broader or better integrations? Have I gotten myself so sort of pigeonholed in that I don't see the wider scope around me? And what are the risks of that?
Absolutely. Well, you definitely want to look at what the options are, and that myopic view, you can actually build things that will only work for a specific project or a specific time and won't be customizable or won't be expandable later easily because you've built it wrong. Without trying to think of all of the details and all of the touch points, or at least build capabilities for them. You don't necessarily need to build from day one something that's going to support everything that may ultimately happen, but you do want to build it in a way that as things do happen, they're easily integrated into what you've already built. And if you don't take a step back and look at that and analyze that, you're missing out. And that's where us or a software firm can actually help you, because they are not in your business. We're not doing what you're doing day in and day out. We can look back at something and say, how does that work with this? Or how does this project work? Or what happens when this happens? And then you start to think, oh, wait a minute, that makes sense. What about this area? What about that area? So these are the kinds of things that you end up doing by having those conversations and then taking that step back. And that's really, really important in terms of the design, whether that's something that gets implemented immediately or as a future phase, but at least it's on the roadmap. And that's something that you can come back to, and it's a living and breathing document. What's going on? What's happening with the business? How are things changing? And you don't get, as you said, pigeonholed into that process.
And that's also part of a proper review by any kind of a consultant, but certainly, the software business. There's this whole round of discovery and coming up with a solution where you build on other solutions or other problems that were similar that have been solved, and you take the best of those and apply them. But as you go through that whole process, that whole life cycle, you're done. Well, you review again. How are we doing? What has happened? What's changed? Everybody gets a lot. For many people, developing software is kind of an abstract. I mean, it really is a concrete item, but becomes an abstract, and they get smarter, and they become better informed, and then they can add more to the conversation. It becomes the system, the situation where 1 and 1 will always equal a number greater than 2. And that's kind of what you want, because one has been able to see that. So you just need someone to look at it and at the very least, give you some ideas on which way to go forward, and what some of the potential pitfalls might be of your approach. And
right, and it's not a set it and forget it attitude. It's the kind of thing where you actually have to keep coming back and thinking about it. There may not be any changes needed, and you may be okay, but at least you have that review. What's going on? What's changing? Where are we going? And what do we see on the horizon? And plan for that. And that has to be done periodically.
It's another great conversation, guys. I'm reminded sometimes just how easy and elegantly it is for you to explore these things, because you do it all day, and it's so engaging to talk about it with you. And I think it removes so much of the confusion or the some of the maybe mystery around custom software and custom software development and its value to me as a business leader, business owner. Thanks for another great conversation, guys. It's always fun to talk to you. I'll talk to you again next time.
Thank you.
take care.
Thanks for joining us for IsAware, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one today. IsAware is powered by Intersoft Associates, who believes the more you know about your IT, the better. Visit us at intersoftassociates.com and schedule your free consultation to talk about how custom software can help your business.